Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast, the 5th anniversary season. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, chief content producer and writer of Jake'sTake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. Before we get started, if you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. If you're listening to this on our audio platforms, download this episode and other episodes, and also please give us a 5-star rating. I would really appreciate it. I'm so excited to welcome my next guest today. She is a creative producer and arts advocate. She's a film credit for My KC Live that airs on KCTV5 CBS in our hometown of Kansas City. She's the co-creator, co-executive producer, and co-host of Get Lost, which airs on Kansas City PBS. So please help me welcome Lonita Cook to the podcast.
Hello.
Hello, Lonita. Thank you so much for taking time in your schedule to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
I am so happy to be here, and happy 5th anniversary to your show. This is so awesome. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome, Lonita. I'm so happy to have you. And guys, we are connected because Get Lost is also produced by one of my our mutual dear friends, Michael Mackie.
M2, he's the host with the most.
Absolutely. He is probably one of the best media personalities of all time.
He's awesome.
Absolutely.
My favorite word that I hear people say about him is that he's a hoot. That is like the most common word. He's a hoot, and I would agree. He's a hoot, but he's I don't know if you want to talk about Michael at all, but he's also very tender. He takes great care of people. He's super smart, super funny, all the things. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's your shout out, Michael. And thank you so much. And hopefully one of these days we'll do a podcast with the three of us. So anyway, we're here to talk about you, Lonita. So let's get started. So when you get interested in media, and how did that desire evolve into desire to pursue a career in the entertainment industry?
Oh, now that's a big question. I'm going to have to give you the since I was little answer. It has to definitely do with the kinds of movies that I was watching. You know, I, like a lot of people, consider the late 70s into the 80s the Hollywood Renaissance. And so I'm like, yes to all the movies that came out in my childhood. But then there were movies like All That Jazz and Fame and Fast Forward. A lot of people don't know Fast Forward, but it was one of those that I watched on repeat. And so all of these movies that were about performance, about being young, about moving to New York, those sorts of things. And I like the other stuff too, like your Die Hards and your Beetlejuices and all those great 80s staples. But the kinds of movies that got me interested in arts and performing were those like Break-In, B Street, like all of these kinds of movies. And so, yeah, I would say that was the beginning. But then my best friend growing up, who is 1 year and 2 days older than me, is my first cousin, Latifa. And she would come over my house every weekend, or I'd go over there. So we were together every weekend, and she and I, we shared imaginary friends. And then we would also perform these little skits and sketches at home. And so this is just one of the ways that we entertained ourselves. This was like the beginning of SNL, and it was very influential on how we, I mean, I don't know if they intended to be, but it was influential on how we played as kids. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. So I grew up around the same time, grew up around like like, you know how SNL was with you guys. It was all that for me. And it's great. And like, it's great to have like those kind of friends, like those cousins who are extremely close. And I would get in trouble if I mention a lot of names, like the cousins who are watching, they know who they are.
Well, I mean, I have a big family. My mother had 11 siblings. And so I have a ton of cousins. At one point in my life, when I was about 25, there were 6 generations of us alive. And so I'm very proud of my entire family. But my cousin Latifa, we were together every single weekend of our childhood. So, yeah.
Awesome. So we got to talk about those because I always love to have when there's television personalities or producers around to talk about the creators, the reporters, the anchors that inspired you and continue to inspire you to this day.
Again, you asked some really good, big questions. I've recently answered this question, and I talked about Maya Angelou. I gotten to see her speak live, and it was just being in the room with her. Of course, we know that she was an incredible speaker. She had a lot of profound things to say and impart that I believe we hear, and it changes our lives, the most of us. We turn her words into our personal mantras, but it was really being in her presence and being sharing that space with the audience who is in her energy and in her space. And so that was life-changing for me. I grew up watching Oprah Winfrey. I know that, and I acknowledged before that she may not be the most popular person right now, but at one point in her career, she was, and I called her the Michael Jackson of daytime television. Nobody has done what she did. And I don't think that, I think the world has changed so much that I don't know that there will ever be another opportunity to be as influential as Oprah Winfrey was during her talk show. And what I really appreciate and what I try to learn from now is her ability to market. She's a great hostess, a great host, very smart, elevated literacy and love of literature and all the things that she did. But I really appreciate her style of marketing. This was something when we watched her show, at least for me, I didn't realize that she was marketing products and services to us. This is what the social media influencer does, right? But we can see them doing it. I had no idea. I thought that she was just coming into our homes every day and just spending an hour with us. And we were besties, right? Like, I feel like most people that watched her felt that way about her. And so her style of marketing was very personal, very open-hearted, and effective in a way that I would like to learn more about how she accomplished that.
Absolutely. We gotta talk. Yeah, Oprah was phenomenal. And like I remember back in the day when I in a couple podcasts ago, I revealed this that I've always said that there were like there was a TV box that I had that my parents and I used when I was like 1 or 2, and they created caricatures of Donahue, Sally Jessy Raphael, and Oprah because they were all on Channel 9. And it was me at the last airspace. So I definitely think Oprah does play a huge role in my thing, and it's also as one of my big three. For my big three, I got to add Barbara Walters and Regis Philbin as well because they, along with Oprah, define daytime television of what it is, define how to inspire people and how to stay along and have a career that lasts decades.
A career that lasts decades, but then building influence that spans beyond that initial career. That this was something that I also talked about, and I think is wild, is Oprah is still out here. She's got social media page. She still does her magazine and stuff. But the thing that we call the Oprah effect, it is still real. And I talked about a friend of mine who has a product. She sells cookies, and some of the best cookies I've ever had in my life. And when I met her, she didn't have a vegan cookie because I'm vegan. And now she had a vegan cookie, and she shipped some to me, the most delicious cookies I've ever had. And Oprah last year added these cookies to her My Favorite Things list. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And she said she had to come on social media multiple times and say, hey guys, I didn't understand. You cannot understand what it is, but the Oprah effect is still in effect. And so when Oprah adds your product to her list today, your business becomes overwhelmed because so many people trust her. And that's what I'm really getting at, is the way that she built that trust. And so, yeah, and she hasn't been on air for however many years, and that trust is still so strong. And so that's what I think is really, I keep thinking the word miraculous, because I think building trust is a miracle in this world, but that's just me. I think that having that kind of trust is just unbelievable, right? That it's maintained so long after you've stepped away from that original platform.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Lonita, I agree 100%, but I gotta say this. We're here to talk about you and not Oprah.
Well, I mean, yes, I thank you for that. But this is a part of what I value, is trust building, right? This is a huge part of what I think is important to my own work as a film critic, but also as a writer, as a consultant, as an arts advocate. It is building that trust with the people that you have relationships with. So, yeah.
I gotta say this, because now that you brought it up, because you are a renowned arts advocate and you just wrapped up your service and your tenure as the first, I can't believe this, the first and Black woman to be the president of the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Museum Foundation and Friends Board, while also serving as a field consultant for the Kansas Department of Commerce Creative Arts Industries Commission. So I got to say this, kudos to you. Congratulations. I think you broke that glass ceiling.
Well, first, let me say thank you for that. I want to say that there was an internal desire to push the envelope forward, I think, from the foundation, from Johnson County Arts and Heritage in and of itself. And my friend, I say friend now, I used to say mentor, but my friend and mentor, Larry Meeker, at the time when I joined the foundation board, he was the president. And he and I had met at the Interurban Art House, and he met with me once a month for a year, just getting to know me, just, how do I think? What do I care about? And there were some things that, he taught me during that year. And I think a part of what he wanted to see is, do I learn stuff? And I do learn stuff. And some of the best things I've learned are from my time spending time with Larry. And so he asked me one day, hey, instead of getting lunch, out, do you want to come over to the center? I hadn't been there since I was little. When I was little, it was King Louis. It was a bowling alley and ice skate rink. And my church, Red Circle Girls, we would go ice skating there. And I hadn't been there since it was no longer King Louis. And I said, sure, I've driven by it. I want to go in. And he gave me a tour of that entire place. Upstairs, the center where the arts classes are, where the theaters are, and the event spaces, but then downstairs, the museum. And then at the end, he said, so could you see yourself serving the board here? I said, whatever you want. Yeah, I'll do it. And so I joined the board, and it was the most functional board I'd ever been a part of. It was all of these people who were so well accomplished in their personal lives and their careers, because most of the boards that I had served on at that time were people who were still actively working in their careers and still striving to realize their dreams. But these were mostly retirees and people who wanted to give to the community that they love. And so it was just a very different experience. And I learned so much. And what Larry did He's so smart. What he did was nominated me to chair the Strategic Planning Committee. And I said, sure, I'm happy to. I had never chaired a Strategic Planning Committee, but he understood that I'm a strategic thinker. I didn't understand that about myself at the time. And so he had me do that. And I worked with the committee, brilliant people. I've mostly listened, and we came up with a strategic plan for the museum. And from there, when he was ready to step down as president, he nominated me to take his place, which was like, really? Me? And then they voted me as president unanimously, and it's some of the most rewarding work that I've been able to be a part of, because everybody's so great. I'm a people person. I'm more personal. Like I want to know you personally, right? It's not just business for me. And everybody is genuinely great, but then they are also phenomenal people to learn from. And so this kind of like the kind of education that you pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get in an institution, I just get to rub shoulders with these people and learn directly from them. And so it just is phenomenal. And the museum, if I remember correctly, it was founded in 1967. And I was voted in as president, I believe in 2019. And so it was really awesome. We got a new executive director of the museum around that same time, and then COVID happened. And so, getting to be president, sorry, there's a siren in the background.
Believe me, I used to do that when I lived in New York City. Believe me, I heard the sirens all day and night in the spot with this podcast. So this podcast and this listeners have known for the past 5 years. They know sirens are in the background. They can handle it.
Okay. And so getting to helm the foundation during COVID with Mary McMurray, who's the current executive director, it was just a lot of elbow grease, a lot of being thoughtful, a lot of, and it just was beautiful work to be able to do. And then before I stepped down as president, we were able to transition our foundation into a friends group. And so being able to manage that transition, it just was like, I felt so cool. Like being able to be a part of that process, it just was amazing. And then, yes, simultaneously contracting with Kansas Department of Commerce as a field rep for Kansas Arts Commission. We are now the Kansas Arts Commission. And what I do for them is just make sure that the program has shifted a little bit in the last year, but the previous years, we just make sure that our arts-based nonprofits in the state of Kansas are resource ready.
Absolutely. You guys do phenomenal work, because pretty soon, as we are recording right now, there's kids and teachers are still thinking about 2024, 2025. So how important is it that the arts stay top of mind for this generation?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. And I'm going to speak for myself. I'm not going to speak as representative for the state by any means. But one, being able to have an arts practice is important. If you are an artist, and even if you're not, having an outlet. I mean, there are tons of studies that are out there that show the correlation between active arts practice, whether it's a hobby or whether it's for work, and mental well-being, physical well-being, joyousness, these sorts of things, alleviating loneliness, these sorts of things. Lots of stuff out there that you can engage to understand that. But for me, what I think is very important is making sure that individual artists, have sustainability. that they can sustain not only their arts practice, but their lives, and be able to sustain their lives by practicing their art. As an artist myself, I was an actor years ago. We always had to have a second job, a day job, to be able to do our work. And so for me, a part of what I want to make sure is available is that you can do your work as an artist and live from there. And so, but then also institutionally, thinking about how art, it can aid in economic development and economic prosperity. And so that's what I think the usefulness and function of art is, and why it's important, because there is a lot of ways that art plays a strong and powerful role in the elevation of the economy.
Absolutely. And in all honesty, without art, we'll be just stuck to the sciences and maths, the STEM. We would just be STEMs and physical education. And I gotta say, I would miss a choir thing. As someone that's an arts kid that actually was a choir kid from 5th grade to 12th grade, did theater from 6th grade to 12th grade. So that's why the arts are always important. I always champion it.
Yes. Yes. I mean, when we talk about arts and kids, like, kids are not surviving childhood without arts. Okay. Like, I think that's a fair statement. I think, like, growing up was the same for me. Like, there was no choice. We did choir once a week. We did art once a week. And these were separate classes. We had our class, and then we would go to another class and learn from our art teacher and learn from our choir teacher. And I think PE is great. I loved playing sports when I was a kid. And let's do kickball. You know what I mean? I love science. When I was a kid, I wanted to grow up and be a psychiatrist, and and so very interested in medicine, and so. But I think we have to look at all of this as an ecosystem, because one, if you let go of one, then you're letting go. You're deteriorating. Is this the word? Diminishing the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we cannot diminish that, and we gotta find ways to keep the arts in schools and keep the arts in our communities.
Absolutely. And that is the core. That's the core of our work with the state, is making sure that arts are a part of our daily lives.
Absolutely. One of the questions I would love to ask you is, before we get lost, I want to talk to you about some of your highlights that you've done in your career. So if you have any highlights that jump out of you, why do they stand out?
Highlights?
Yes.
Just like in general, or when it
like
comes
memorable interviews or memorable moments on the red carpet?
Memorable interviews. Gosh. I so there's a show on Apple TV Plus called Trying. Do you know this show?
I need to look it up.
That's okay. So Trying is on Apple TV Plus. They just did their 3rd or 4th season. They just started. And it's about a UK couple who wanted to have a baby and are unable. And so in exploring their options, they decide to adopt. And that's kind of the premise of the show. And I got to interview the 2 actors that play that couple. And it's the kind of show, seasons 1 and 2, where I cried at almost every episode. Like, I'm an easy crier though. And they serenaded me in that interview.
Wow.
Like, on the spot, I asked them, I said, something about them being the masters of the heartstrings, because they're pulling them in all the right ways all the time. And they just made up a song called Masters of the Heartstrings right there. And so I love that so much. And then, of course, I got to interview Jason Sudeikis, That was even before Ted Lasso, I loved Jason Sudeikis. My kids are like, because, you know, we all have our comfort stuff that we put on the TV, and it's We Are the Millers, Horrible Bosses 2. Not so much stuff like Kodachrome, because for me, that's like a real sit down. I'm going to be crying in the middle of this thing, at the end of this thing. But, you know, something where, you know, I need to just, you know, relax, or I need a palate cleanser because I've had like a tough day. It's Jason Sudeikis all the way. And so Ted Lasso season 1 replaced The Golden Girls as my all-time favorite series.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yes, I love Ted Lasso season 1 so much. I probably watched that entire season, I don't know, probably 200 times. I love it so much. And when I talk to people, work with writers about economical storytelling, season 1 of Ted Lasso is my go-to for that. And so being able to interview Jason himself, it was like, it was bonkers bananas. But yeah. So that was cool. Now I'm just thinking of like my favorite interviews. Gosh, those two.
They do a lot, like over the years. They definitely meld together.
Well, I will say this. When I first started, it was like, obviously I didn't know what I was doing at all. And I didn't go to journalism school. Like I said, I was an actor. I trained at American Musical and Dramatic Academy. I was a theater actor. I didn't know anything like about being on TV and that kind of stuff. And so I've just been kind of making my way, you know, as I go. And so when I first got started, I got to interview Kevin Bacon. And
oh, wow.
I just was like, I don't even know what to say. And like the only, like, I used to get teased in school. They would say that Kevin Bacon was my boyfriend because my name is Lonita Cook. And so they'd be like, Lonita Cook, Kevin Bacon. Like, and so when I got to interview him, that's like going in my head.
Oh, wow.
I was like, he does not want to know.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely. But however, that would make a really good first impression and like a standout moment that he could have gone on to like Ellen or somewhere like that. He'd have shared that conversation.
Well, if I ever get to talk to him again, maybe I'll tell them then. But he was really great to talk to. And it was the interview that I did that really put me at ease and made me feel like, okay, I kind of understand what I can be doing here. And so that's one of those early interviews that really stood out for me. Yeah. I mean, it's so many great, I cherish every interview I get to do with the celebrities, but then like folks, you know, indie filmmakers, folks back home. My very first interview where somebody was like, you're good at this, you should be doing this. That made me feel that way. Michelle Davidson, do you know who she is?
The name rings the bell.
So the reason the name rings a bell is because she co-hosted Kansas City Live with Michael Mackie on Channel 41. And I was not on TV, on live TV. I was hosting a show for Kansas City, Kansas Community College. And I started a column reviewing movies. And she asked if I would review her short film. It was her first movie that she had made. And if I would interview her. And after our interview, she said, this was the funnest interview I ever had. And that's something that I've never forgotten. It gave me such a sense of confidence. And then she's the one who got me into live television. She asked if I would be the film critic for Kansas City Live. And so I always credit her as a highlight, an important person in the elevation of my own career and what I thought I was able to do or capable of. I always credit her as somebody who said, hey, you can do more, you can do this, you can, so yeah.
All righty. We gotta bring, since we're talking about him, we gotta bring him back in. So recently you teamed up with our good friend Michael Mackie to co-create, co-executive produce, and co-host, I gotta say, one of the best travel series I have seen in a long time. For PBS travel series Get Lost. So what has been some of the feedback that you two have received about the show? And where do you and Michael hope to take Get Lost to the next level?
Thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for this wonderful question. And thank you for that incredible compliment. That's so cool. Well, some of the feedback that we've gotten is that people want to see us talking to people in the community more. And I would agree. They want to see us kind of walking through the communities. They want to see the towns that we're in. In our pilot episode, we kind of did the locations, like the places you need to visit when you get to this town. But people asked for us to kind of walk through the town. They want to experience the city with us. And so that's one thing that we had heard. I've heard, like, Michael and I both have big personalities. I'm a little bit more reserved than Michael. But we both have big personalities. And so getting the note that they want to see more of us was kind of like, really? But I think what they meant is that Michael and I, we get along well, we have a lot of fun, but they want to see our human side a little bit more. And so that's been some of the and that's the kind of feedback that I enjoyed, that I like. But, we've gotten compliments, hand over fist. Like, people are, they didn't know this about Disney. They didn't know Disney was from Chicago or lived in Marceline. And then some people didn't know that he lived in Kansas City. And so just the information, we did a lot of research, and then we brought in great people who are experts on topics. And so that was one thing that we heard a lot, is that people learned something. A lot of people felt that we highlighted places really well. So even though some people wanted us to go through, a lot of people were like, I want to go to Hamilton because I didn't know the JCPenney Museum was there and I want to see it. And so that's one thing that we've heard, is that people are finding new places where they want to travel and they want to go to, but that feel like places they can hop in their car and hit the open road and just head there. Because what I think separates our show is, because I like travel shows, but the ones that I watch are pretty swanky. They're eating like gold flakes in their meal, kind of stuff. Well, with us, we're just going to people's backyards. Like, we're going into small towns and we're saying, hey, can I take a peek and see what's going on here? And so I think that's kind of one great thing that people are responding to.
And that's amazing. I'm so glad for that. I'm very excited to see what you guys have planned in store for next as you guys continue, because the thing is, I could see this show helping the Kansas City and Missouri metro areas so much. And like, maybe we have people from Tulsa, maybe we get from Denver and Boulder, Omaha or St. Louis come here, or even Nashville.
Yes. Well, so the vision for the show, because Michael and I, one of the reasons, he keeps saying in interviews that we don't have anything in common. And I'm like, I see us differently. The reason why we work is we have different personalities, but we are both big vision, big dreamer types. And so when we get in a room together, we're like, ooh, we could do this. Ooh, and we can do that. And we're just building energy and a vibe with each other. And so our original vision included being able to go to further out, go to Omaha, going to Iowa, going to Colorado, going to Oklahoma, and having a regional travel show until people want to come along and take us national. Do what needs to be done to get us national. And because we would love to see this great nation. And then once we've been everywhere by open road that we can go here, then we'll have to hop on a plane.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I definitely, and this, guys, the show is phenomenal. This pilot, what I cannot stop praising the pilot. You've seen a lot of the social media's love I've sent you guys.
Yes, you have been so supportive. And then getting to sit next to you. So I know I'm supposed to be talking about myself. I'm not super great at that. I'm working on it. But you and I sat next to each other. We went to Disney 100 at Union Station. It's an exhibit. And you and I, they did this really wonderful presentation for us where the CEO came out and they talked about all of the great things, the inception of the exhibit, where it will go next, Disney's relationship to our community, and just being able to sit next to you and enjoy that and experience it. And we took pictures together. It's just wonderful. Yeah.
I agree. That was one of the most funnest nights ever. I gotta say, and that was a really good presentation. You and I were exactly talking when the Harlem Men's Chorus came out and did a huge Disney medley, and seeing all the films in the background, it reminded me so much of my childhood, especially like the Disney films from the later end of the Disney Renaissance, like like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Mulan, and Hercules, and Tarzan, that rarely get their love. It was great seeing that, like getting those chills moments. And by the way, guys, Disney, if you go to Kansas City and have until November 30th to see this magical exhibit, it's probably one of the best exhibits I have ever seen.
Yeah, I would agree. There are some things in there that are interactive that were surprising. There are some things that they're doing that's kind of pushing technology forward or using lesser known technology in a way that elevates Disney. And it was just like so cool. It is appropriate for the entire family. And when you have a legacy that spans 100 years, everybody's childhood is represented in this room, in the exhibit, in the experience. And so, if you get the chance to go, do it. If you have the opportunity and you're like, we can go to dinner or we could go to the exhibit, go to the exhibit.
Absolutely. All righty. So Lonita, we got to start winding down our conversation. So where can my audience find you, find Get Lost, and also if you have any books or any readings, where can they find them?
Thank you so much, Jacob. First and foremost, before we get out of here, I got to thank you again. I got to thank your viewers and listeners. This has been a wonderful conversation. And if you want to hang out with me a little bit more, you can find me at Lonita Cook on Instagram. You can also go to lonitacook.com, and then you'll find more about what I do. I'm a middle-aged woman who just got started in pursuing my creative dreams, and I work with other folks to help them do the same. And so lonitacook.com, you can, sign up for all the things. I will also be launching a podcast where I talk to midlife high flyers, folks who are starting what I just said, starting their wildest and best dreams in midlife or later. But then also folks like you, Jacob, who are influencers, to come on and talk about building influence, building networks, and those sorts of things. And that's called Cookie's High Flyer Podcast. And then on YouTube, Lonita Cook 1221.
Awesome. So guys, have you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast? Visit our channels on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Spotify, and Spreaker. It's Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. And guys, want to know what's going on with AGT this season? Who won Masked Singer? Want to know more? See my interview with Michael Mackie, and also more about this Disney 100 exhibit that we've been talking about, head to jake-shake.com. Once again, jake-shake.com. Lonita, it was such a privilege to talk with you. I had a great time talking with you, and we got to do this again soon, and maybe we might bring in Michael.
Yes, anytime. You say the word, and I'm there.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great one, everybody. Goodbye.